Hello and welcome back to Mastering Flat Design. In this lesson we're going to continue with our content slider. We're going to pull in some images to put over here in the right hand area, and since we're talking about our web design services here, I just want to throw in a few screenshots of Jerry Clutterbuck's web design portfolio. So we're going to go to the File menu, we're going to click on Place, and we're going to place in the project files folder, you have a folder called images, and we're going to place these three images that we have here onto our file. So we're going to take this corporate design JPEG, retro design, and space design. So we can only do one of these at a time when we're using the place command. So let's go ahead and do the space design since I want that one to be in the background a little bit. I'm going to resize this. And we'll resize it to about a width of 310 pixels. Hit enter to apply those changes, and then we'll just place it down here for now. We'll rearrange it once we pull everything else in. We'll go back to our file menu, click on place, and we'll grab the retro design.jpg image, and then once again we're going to resize this until it is at a width of 310 pixels. So we'll keep dragging it until we have that. So 310 pixels wide. We'll drag this over and drop it here. Okay, so one more time, File, Place, and we'll grab the third one, which is corporate design.jpg, and we'll place that one on top of the other two. Let's resize this until we have 310 pixels of width, like so, and then we'll place it over here on top of the other two. All right, so let's space these out a little bit so that we can see a little bit more of the designs underneath them. And then, just to make sure that they're all spaced evenly, I'm going to grab all three of these layers, and with the Move tool selected, we're going to click up here, and we want to space them evenly. So we're going to grab this second option here. We're going to distribute the top edges because they're not all the same height. So we want to distribute the top edges of these three items. So we'll click on that, and it spaces the top edges out evenly. And then we want to do the same thing with the left edges. So we'll click up here to distribute the left edges, and there we go. Now they're all spaced evenly. So then let's grab all three of these, bring them all the way over to the right edge. And since we have 90 pixels of padding over here on the left, I also want 90 pixels on the right. So with all three of those selected, they're nudged right up against the right edge. I'm going to hold on to Shift and hit the left arrow key 9 times. And that will give us 90 pixels of padding. I'm also going to nudge it over a little bit more, about 5 or 6 pixels more, because I want to put a drop shadow behind this. Right now, this business design portfolio piece has a white background on it, and it's blending in with the white background for our content slider. So I'm going to put a slight shadow behind each of these. Now remember, when we talked about flat design before, we talked about how there are very rarely things like bevels and drop shadows and gradients and things like that. But every now and then you'll find a time when you need one, when it makes sense to go ahead and use one. And now would be a good time to put a drop shadow behind these, because right now these colors are just kind of overlapping each other, and it's kind of hard to tell where the business design portfolio piece stops and where the background starts. So again, we're going to double click in the empty area over here of the corporate design layer, and we're going to add a drop shadow. I'm going to bring the distance down to 0 so that it shows up around all 4 edges. I'm also going to bring the opacity down quite a bit to somewhere around maybe 15%. And that looks pretty good. So we'll click on OK. And then we're going to right click on that drop shadow, click on Copy Layer Style, and then select both the Retro Design and Space Design layers, right click, and paste layer style so that both of those have a drop shadow behind it as well. Then we want to clip the bottom of these images out so that they stay within the boundaries of our content slider. So let's start with the corporate design piece. What I'm going to do is I'm going to command click, or if you're using a PC, control click on this rectangle here that serves as the background for our content slider. So again, make sure you have the corporate design layer selected, and then command click or control click on a PC on the thumbnail area, the layer thumbnail for that rectangle 1 layer, and you'll see that it selects that rectangle 1 layer. So with that selection in place and the corporate design layer selected, we're going to come down here and click on the new mask icon, and that will mask it out for us. So we'll do the same thing for the retro design layer and the space design layer. However, you'll notice a small problem. If we turn these two layers off and zoom in a little bit down here, you can see that since this corporate design layer has a drop shadow on it, that drop shadow is dropping down below the bottom edge of the content slider. So I'm actually going to do this mask a different way. Let's zoom out to 100% by hitting Command 1 or Control 1 on a PC. And let's get rid of this mask here. So I'm going to drag that mask to the trash can icon to get rid of it. And you'll see that that mask disappears. And what I'm going to do, let's turn all three of these layers back on, select all of them, and then group them together. So again, there's two ways we can group them together. We can select all of them and then drag them down to the new group icon, or the way we've been doing it with a keyboard shortcut is we can hold on to Command, Shift, and Option, or again, if you're using a PC, Control, Shift, and Alt, and click on the new group layer and give this new group a name. So we'll call this Portfolio Pieces. And now it's all in a group. So what we can do is we can command click on that background layer to select the background for the content slider. So once we have that selection in place, we simply select this group here and click on the new mask icon. And that way, since we're masking the group instead of that specific layer, it's also masking out the drop shadow. So that drop shadow is no longer dropping outside of that content slider area, and that looks perfect. Okay. So we've got the content of our content slider finished. In the next video, we're going to add some navigation so that we can go back and forth between the different slides. So let's save our file as flatdesign07.psd. Once we have that saved, we'll move on to the next video. Thank you for watching.